Hey guys, we thought it would be fun to put together a bunch of pictures and video from all the work that went into our place. So this is it. Hope you enjoy.
So these photos are me driving by, taking a look at the house before we ended up purchasing. This was when we first heard about the house.
You can see there was a lot of work that needed to be done to the outside, just looking at the back there.
And there was a lot of stuff that was still there at the house from the previous owner.
This is just a collection from just the outside of the house. So here you can see all the cars that were sitting out there.
Yeah, this is when I was looking at the house, and I sent video back to Krista, who was in Washington State. This is before we were engaged. I was looking at the house.
You can see it had a pretty good lot area back there. So this is when you first come in the back. It used to be a porch at one point. It got enclosed.
We believe it used to be a porch that was enclosed. These houses were actually all built for the Chino mine workers. Originally they were owned by the mine, and then they ended up selling to the people that lived in them, or giving them the option to buy.
You can see there wasn't a lot of cabinet space there in the kitchen. So this is in the living room. There on the left you can see a door, and that led to there was a walk-in closet.
And a closed door.
Yeah. There's a beam at the top. You can see that's not finished, and that, we believe there was a wall there at one point, making this room a bedroom.
Yeah, the part that's going over. And you can see there's lots of stuff. Most of that was gone when we actually got the house. This is just the showing.
You can see how small the bathroom is there.
I believe you were the one taking these videos at this point. The first time I came and looked at the house, I didn't take videos.
That was the walk-through closet there.
So this is after we purchased the house. Yeah, we had closed on it. Krista was out, and her siblings. This first little short clip is showing the closet before we did anything to it. So you can see here there's a kind of a transition area. You'll see later on, and we cut the oak out of the bathroom. It was damaged in a lot of places, so we ended up cutting it out. But there were some good pieces, so we used that to patch the floor here, and then later on you'll see we patched the floor in the living room. I had to tear out all the drywall that was there. It was fastened to the walls. I'm not sure why it wasn't secured the best, but anyway. We re-drywalled, and then we also painted, put trim up, that kind of thing. And so this is kind of the finished product here. You can see we put shelving in, which is kind of a tight closet, but it still meets our needs. So this first photo is us kind of at the entrance of the bathroom. And originally it was a lath and plaster wall, and then the bottom was just a concrete pan. We tore all of the concrete out. We discovered when they had put the pan in, they actually had cut the joists, and originally we weren't going to go this in depth, but we started looking at things. It really needed some work, and we scabbed on new floor joists there. At this point I would have had the flooring done, and I was drywalling, and this is a 360 view, although it didn't get the whole 360, but most of it. You can see we got the blue board behind where the shower is going to be, and then the rest of it was just the white. This
was kind of fun because it was actually really cold because there was no heat in the house.
I think we had a space heater running.
Yeah, so I was trying to warm up those tubes of glue, and then I would hand them to Curtis.
Yeah, the liquid nails. Yeah, I think you were holding them in front of the heater before we put it on, and then I was using that trowel, the notch trowel, to spread it on there on the wall. I think we bought the shower surround at Home Depot or Lowe's. It suited our needs. And this skips ahead again. Looks like Betsy's doing some painting in the bath, kind of towards the end where we have the finished product, except we still have the old windows there.
So here in the bedroom, the previous owner had built in this cabinet into the wall. It was interesting, there was drywall all around it, so we ended up pulling that out. Here you can see the original windows and the linoleum that was on the floor.
He had some plumbing issues. The other side of that wall there where those cuts are is where the shower was. You can see there in the far, so the photo on the right side, the lower left corner there's a little place where the linoleum is torn up. And so anyway, we knew for sure we had to do something else in the bedroom. It doesn't seem like it would be that difficult, but when it comes down to it, the glue was probably the hardest part in the bedroom. So we got all the linoleum stripped off, and then after work I'd come out and use belt sanders to sand the floor. This is about the halfway point. We were kind of tight on money at the time, on cash, and we were trying to do things on the cheap side, so I went to Walmart and bought belt sanders. We did go through quite a few belts.
When I came to visit, I would go to the house and help out with projects. So there, I was with my sister-in-law. We were cleaning off flooring that we would then use for other parts in the house.
See, this is the finished product after we got all the flooring sanded. I think it was finished when
that was like the
your
last
sisters
thing.
Were up.
I think before you got married, that was one of the last things.
That was one of the last things you did, I think. First photo is Marshall working on the electrical, getting some stuff in order.
This cabinet here, you can see that when you open the door, you would have noticed the shelving was all held on by brad nails.
A lot of the cabinets, I guess, they were glued to the wall. They had actually notched this cabinet to go around the chimney, which you'll see. Lots of fun there. At that point, the chimney was still in the old fireplace. We ended up taking that out, and you can see the work in progress. If you remember earlier, we had talked about a door in the closet. So that photo there, way we were starting to get ready to seal that off, and then we're taking apart the wall. It was a non-load bearing wall. We had to start at the roof, and brick by brick, I think we figured we pulled out, Jonathan and I pulled out probably, I don't know, 800 bricks, something like that. We just threw them out. We were trying to get them in the trailer, but they didn't all make it, as you can see. We actually tore chimney down all the way into the crawl space and sealed it off. There you can see the flooring is sealed up there. We put another layer of plywood later. In this photo, there's a transition where the old wall was. Your dad used some of that oak flooring to make it match, which was nice.
We brought the wall out in the kitchen.
We made a little mini wall. That way the cabinet had a nice wall to butt up to. Originally, we had thought we were going to leave the main cabinet in, but then I started looking at things, and kind of similar situation to the closet. Yeah, the drywall was messed up. That's us sanding in the kitchen. We've got new cabinets in, which we ended up, you'll see here, but we ended up painting all of the cabinet doors and cabinets.
I thought we were pretty creative in how we got them all to lay out and dry.
There's the one outside.
We were so thankful for all the help from our families.
Yes, definitely. So this is after all the cabinets are in. We have the plywood on countertops, and we decided we wanted to do epoxy countertops. With epoxy, usually you'd use an MDF board, but we ended up using plywood. It wasn't recommended, but we did it anyway. This would have been about $100 a sheet just a few months later. We ended up painting the counters, and then we put strips of plywood around the edges. We glued them on, and then I routed the edges with a router, look more like a traditional countertops. You can see we're preparing for the epoxy. Right here we started doing the epoxy, which actually we had to pour the epoxy on. It's kind of like it's like pouring glue on. That's kind of the way it felt. And then you just let it pour over the edges. You can see where it dripped all over the place. And that's the way it's supposed to be. I didn't like the way we lost so much of it, but I mean, that's the way it works. And then after you put the first layer on, you can drizzle on some patterns, different color patterns. So anyway, we tried to make it look like a white marble. We ended up getting a little visitor during the night. We finished probably about 9 o'clock at night, went to bed, and then in the morning we found this guy out in the middle, which was too bad. We had to cut him out. After the epoxy dried, we had to sand the edges because there were still drips. And then the last part, well, one of the last parts was putting backsplash. So we found this nice backsplash we were able to put on. Kind of made it look the way we wanted it to.
I was pretty happy about this.
It hadn't been used with the previous configuration before we...
And that was my brother helping put in some lighting.
So these are photos that were taken before we started working on the living room. Some of these, I think we were doing work. We kind of used the living room as storage while we were doing work in the other rooms. The main project in the living room was doing the flooring. I think we had already painted at this point. There's that beam going across the top. The reason that's there is that used to be a wall. Before we purchased the house, somebody had taken out the wall, but they hadn't finished the project. So there was a gap between the hardwood floor in the living room and what used to be the bedroom. Krista's dad got the flooring that we took out of the bathroom and put that in there, and it fit very nicely. I think I helped a little bit gluing the final little strip in because there was a little bit more of a gap, so we had to strip down some of the boards to get it to fit in that little sliver there, but it ended up working really nicely. We stained all the flooring, and actually in hindsight we almost wish we had used a lighter color stain. So we ended up taking out all the doors in the house, took the hardware off them, resanded. Yeah, everything looks a lot better than it did before. When I did the windows, I wanted the windows painted. I knew we were going to get rid of them, but the paint underneath it looked nasty. So I ended up doing kind of a sloppy job as a painter. And so you can see we're taking them out there.
It was very exciting.
Which this is kind of later down the road, but I did lots of work in the laundry room, but it was kind of over a period of time. Originally, while we were doing the work on the house, it was kind of used as a storage room for all of our tools and everything. And then after we moved into the house, after we were married, we still kind of used it as a bit of a storage room. If you look there in the corner, you can see there's a little bit of what looks to be the exterior wall, like the siding on the outside. I ended up cutting that out. We ended up using it on the back of the house later because there was a section that needed to be redone. But we tore that out. I tore that out before we were married. Later on, your dad and brother came up and did work. This is after we were married. I'm not sure why I look serious there. I was tearing out the shelving there to prepare for the drywall to be put in. Your dad and brother,
they did an amazing job.
The work. Yeah, they did. And you can see we had the new window there. This is a photo from the back, the exterior. We kind of saw some earlier on. There's somebody working hard.
We got some more. Recruited some help with scraping.
Yeah, we had to scrape the house before we could put the new paint on. So the section right there to the right of the door, we think the door had been moved over. We actually used siding that we had taken out of the laundry room. We ended up putting that there. We bought good paint from Sherwin-Williams. We kind of got everything cleared away from the side of the house. We had put the windows in at this point, which that took a little while. Well, maybe a couple weeks to get the windows put in earlier on, but anyway, you can see this is where it's all prepped. There you can see we were able to borrow the spray painter from a friend. That was very helpful. It sped things up a lot. We took the porch away a little bit. This is kind of a walk around. Siding was in pretty good condition for the age. There you can see the back paneling there, or the siding where we put the stuff from in the laundry room.
So this is like before the paint.
We were ready to paint at this point.
And the fun part.
And there we go. We got to do the painting. It didn't take that long to paint, if I remember correctly. I think we may have been working on it maybe 3 hours at most.
It isn't exactly the color we were going for, but we weren't too upset with it.
I think the color is London Fog, isn't it?
Something like that,
that's what it's called. And we did end up putting trim on afterwards. We were able to get it looking a little bit better with that. I like the white trim with the kind of grayish blue background. I think ours is one of the sharper looking houses in our area.
And actually, since this picture was taken, we've been working on landscaping.
The work still continues. We're not all the way done yet. This is kind of the finished product inside.
We really like our little house.
Yeah, we do.
And that's one thing everybody comments on is the size of the kitchen, which I'm very grateful for.
It is a large kitchen for the size of the house. But, yeah, I think
kind of does the job though.
Yeah. We didn't mention much about them, but we did put what they call them mini split AC heating and cooling units in one in the bedroom, one in the living room.
You have to get creative sometimes when you have small spaces with storage and stuff. And this is the finished product of what things look like. We definitely could not have done this without all our family. And we had friends helping out, and just there was a lot of people that helped out. So we're very grateful for that.
We are.
We would name them, but they'd probably be embarrassed, so we won't do that.